Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Unlocking Portfolio Value with NetSuite. A little about Forvis Mazars. Forvis Mazars is an independent member of Forvis Mazars Global, a leading global professional services network. Ranked among the largest public accounting firms in the United States, our team members are dedicated to providing an unmatched client experience through the delivery of assurance, tax, and consulting services. As part of the firm's consulting services, Business Technology Services provides analysis, design, implementation, upgrade, training, and support services for accounting and ERP systems and sales and marketing CRM systems, in addition to other digital transformation and advanced technology services. At a glance, these are the technologies Business Technology Services supports. Today, we'll be focusing on NetSuite ERP and with our industry team, private equity. Our main presenter today is Walter Hilderman. Walter is a NetSuite practice leader at Forvis Mazars and brings more than 25 years of experience. He specializes in system design, architecture, problem solving, and business process improvement through ERP and CRM technology. In his experience, he's worked with hundreds of clients across a variety of industries, including manufacturing, distribution, omni-channel retail, nonprofit, and professional services. He collaborates with business stakeholders, developers, and system experts to deliver effective technology solutions into production. And joining Walter today is Darren McKnight. Darren is an experienced business operations leader focusing on business transformation and performance improvement. By empowering top talent and creating an environment for strategic alignment, he helps teams transform their visions into reality and deliver impactful results. He has over 25 years of experience leading functional initiatives, including projects for sales, sales operations, channel operations, and customer support. Prior to Forvis Mazars, Darren served as a senior partner with M&A Partners, leading merger integration and business transformation programs for corporate and private equity firms. In his current role, he works across many industries, including software, cybersecurity, IT services, telecommunications, management consulting, healthcare, distribution, and staffing. Again, thank you for participating in today's webinar. Now I will turn over the presentation to Walter.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Good to be back with everybody, talking a little bit more about NetSuite and what it can do for our clients. And very glad to have a special guest with me today, Darren McKnight. And Darren works for one of those groups inside of the firm that we work with quite often. So one of the real joys and benefits of working for a firm like Forvis Mazars is the ability to have so much help around us and beside us. It's not just about technology. Anybody who's done a project like this knows that it's never just about the product or the technology. It's also about processes and people and all of those other really important factors that help bring any conversion project to a successful finish, or even the use of a product like NetSuite inside your business. So, Darren, I really appreciate you joining us today. All right, Darren, you are muted, so I'll give you a minute to push that button. But my first question for you really is just, let's talk about the group that you're with. Sometimes I refer to them as the PEVC group, or the Private Equity Value Creation Group. Tell us how you guys label yourselves and what you mainly do for clients.
Sure. Thank you, Walter, and thank everybody for attending today. Yeah, so our group, Private Equity Value Creation, is really actually going to be evolving over time, too. We're actually becoming more of a broader business consulting team, supporting both middle market and private equity. But what we do is really focus on the operational nature of these transactions, get a lot into the business transformation, business integration of companies buying other companies and so forth. And that really gets into all aspects of a business, particularly around people, process, and technology. So we certainly are getting into all of those spaces in every engagement that we do. So glad to be here and glad to be a part. Thanks, Walter.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So acquisitions and exits and managing the portfolio and trying to make sure that there's a consistent strategy across that portfolio and the consulting around it. Sounds like your daily bread. And here's our objectives today. We're going to talk about some of those things. NetSuite, obviously a thread in the discussion today, but we're going to talk about what Darren and his team do for other organizations. I hope some of that resonates with the attendees today. I'm going to weave into that how I think NetSuite helps support the kinds of process change that Darren's going to be talking about. And we'll hopefully have some time at the end to demonstrate some of these things as well. A lot of our webinars like this are more demo heavy. Today, a little more discussion and consulting heavy, but we'll try to get some demo in towards the end for sure. All right, and with that, we've got our first polling question. Almost a trick question, could be representative of everybody on the call, but who can benefit the most from attending this webinar on these topics? CFOs, controllers, private equity professionals, or all of the above? I bet we've got a pretty good sampling of those kind of folks on the call today. All right, we got to leave this up for just a wee bit. So, hey, the weather's changing. It's getting a little cooler outside. It's October. One of the traditions in my house is scary movie night. But I've sort of come to accept the fact that I just don't love horror movies. So, Darren, I was going to ask you, what's your favorite movie genre?
I would say I enjoy the conspiracy cover-up type of movies. Few Good Men is probably one of my favorites of all time.
Yes, good stuff. And we talked about some Clancy stuff earlier and some good technical mysteries, and love that stuff. I'm thinking, all right, we got results, but hey, all the above. Looks like we're scoring well with community, so that's awesome. But back to that question, I've decided that I'm an unashamed sci-fi person. Maybe not a sci-fi geek, but not ashamed to admit I love a good, thoughtful sci-fi. All right, so we talked about Darren's group a little bit with PEVC, private equity value creation. He mentioned some of these things already, so let's get into the meat of the presentation. And Darren, I'll let you take over the slides at this point, but let's talk through some of the services you guys offer and some of the stories that you've seen throughout your consulting journey.
Sure. Thank you, Walter. So I would say the three main legs of our stool, again, before the evolution of our team that's going to be occurring here in the coming months, but we really have three main areas that we've been focusing on. One is around merger integration and transformation. This really has to do with, all of the activity associated with right before a deal transacts. There's typically a lot of integration planning that has to occur, and getting into understanding what that deal thesis is and how do we drive value and how do we create that project plan and so forth. But really making sure that the whole overall integration is in lockstep with all the functional teams within the organization to drive that value of any transaction. Because you're really trying to merge two organizations, and you want to make sure that you get something at the end that looks like one company and not multiple companies to your clients. The second stool is the finance and accounting transformation. So this is really around really bringing some robustness to an organization. A lot of times you find that through transactions and otherwise, some of these organizations just don't have that. They've got a founder-led system, if you will, and they really need to make that more robust to really withstand the time of the growth, the cycle that a company goes through. And so it's really important to make sure that not only do you have the processes and methodology and so forth within the finance team, but that you have the ability to produce those financial reports across multiple companies. And when you look at a private led organization that is an ownership group and they've got many portfolio companies, you really want to have some consistent reporting and financial analysis that's going on amongst them. The other third leg of the stool is really around ERP implementation and optimization, and helping companies that are going through that growth stage and really need to look at trying to not only select in some cases, but modernize or even implement some of these ERP systems within the organization to support that growth. So those are the main three areas that we focus on. When we look at the benefits and opportunities around this group, a lot of it is we do a lot of work around the strategy, helping companies understand what's really important to them, and if they've done an acquisition, what's the real deal thesis of that acquisition? What are the value drivers, if you will, of that organization, and what they're trying to accomplish, and why they did the deal in the first place. So we really try to help that activity and conversation go on so that we can get that best in case project plan and milestones and so forth to support that along the way, having the right KPIs and analysis to actually execute on that. With regards to the finance opportunities, is really around, again, that robustness of the finance organization. A lot of times you find these organizations only have a financial analyst that's leading their entire finance organization. They don't have any real systems of meat. Sometimes it's on Excel, and we really are trying to help them grow their business, grow their systems, so that they've got something that really is in place to support that growth across their entire financial organization. We even provide interim CFO and controller support if needed to support through that transition as well. And on the technology side, if a company is needing to upgrade ERP for growth, a lot of that work can be done by our team as well. So helping integrate multiple software platforms. A lot of times you find one company's got a different platform, or they've got a different instance of a platform, and we really try to help amalgamate that platform so that it is seamless across the whole organization.
A couple things I've seen here as you go through these slides are sort of a 1, 2, 3, a left to right. There's this journey from thinking about what you need to do overall to finance to technology, and you even mentioned founder-led structure. I've seen a lot of technology-led structure as well. I think it's equally as flawed. It's easy to go get a best-of-breed system in manufacturing or healthcare or construction that doesn't take into account the impact that system may have on the rest of the business, finance being one. And just to think about this whole transformation from left to right, from a basic state to a modern state is what I see coming out of these slides and the journey that you take people through.
Absolutely. And one of the things, when we think about even transactions in general, we're really trying to drive that value post-transaction. We'll work with teams, understanding the deal thesis, understanding what the value drivers are, what's really going to create value within that business. We work with all the functional teams to actually understand what does each functional team contribute towards that value. And by default, if everybody is understanding what their value contribution is and building an integration plan towards that end, then by default, you've got a value-driven project plan. And so every milestone, every task, everything on that plan really is driven towards value creation. And so that's really what we try to help clients do. It's not just a matter of tasks, not just a matter of putting things on paper. It's really trying to make sure that what you do put on that project plan has value at the end of the day. And we try to do that as fast as possible. We'll build those 100-day plans to get as much done as we can in that first 100 days, because that's really where a lot of value is created. And we're always keeping the people and the process in mind, because those are the key aspects to drive any system solution decision. And so we want to make sure that we've got those aggressive project milestones within that detailed project plan that really support the people and the process and the clients. I would say within our group, we've got probably an average of 20 years of average post-transaction private equity experience. And we've done a lot of work with a lot of different funds and portfolio companies. And so we've got a lot of experience in our group.
Nice trick there. I noticed, the older we get, the more we use the average rather than the cumulative experience, because that number's getting too big now. So average is a lot safer for us. But and I like this slide too, because even though we're talking about NetSuite today, as Sarah pointed out, Forvis Mazars is system agnostic, and we've got a lot of different systems that we support. You saw them on an earlier slide. And our commitment is not to a particular technology. That first bullet point there is our commitment is to our clients. We do not succeed unless our clients succeed. and we are driven to pick the right technology as a result of that commitment to make sure that you get the solution that you need, not the solution that we're selling. And there's a big difference there. And if I were to talk about experience, I would never really talk about systems. Yeah, I've been doing for NetSuite for 20 years as well, but so what? The real point of experience with us is that we've seen these projects succeed and fail. We've worked with the people. We know what it takes to get these projects done. And it's really people and project experience that we're talking about here more than technology.
Absolutely. And every single deal is unique. We learn new things in every single opportunity that we can take to the next client. And so when you have 20 years average transaction with amongst their entire team, they've seen a lot of deals, they worked a lot of projects, and they have a lot of experience and seen a lot to bring to the table.
And that's significant. Ask the team that you're talking to, if you're not working with us, how many deals they've done. Darren and I are up into the 300, 400, 500s if we were to add them all up on these. And that's a significant slate of experience that we pull from when we're working with you.
This is our value creation wheel that we call it internally, and it really speaks to some of the areas that we kind of focus on as a group. We're really focused on revenue growth, and we look at, product pricing strategy, markets and acquisitions, sales force effectiveness, really trying to drive that type of activity across the business. We also focus on value delivery through supply chain optimization, through process management, through workforce management. And we've got a lot of examples of that type of work, and we've cited a few here in the text. We also do the business enablement side, where this is really around the HR resource optimization and how you manage those resources effectively and get them in the right seats on the bus. Information technology, which is a large part of what this webinar is about, is how do you get the right systems to support the people, process, and customers that you have in place. Accounting and reporting across multiple portfolio companies, tax optimization, credit and risk management, liquidity management, really around the financial space. So this is a lot of the main themes, I'll say, that our team focuses on as an organization to really ensure that we're bringing that value to our clients. So when we speak specifically to the merger, integration, and transformation, one of the first things we do is try to understand that deal thesis. Why did we do this deal in the first place? And what is the value that we want to create as a result of this acquisition? And a lot of that drives what we call value drivers, as I mentioned before. And understanding what those value drivers are, then you can really determine, okay, what are the priorities within each organization, and how do they contribute to that value, so that we can get all of those people and process priorities set and within that project plan to manage any risk or any issues that might come up along the way. So that detailed project plan, if you think about a project plan, you've got your standard milestones and your tasks and your due dates and deliverables and ownership. But one of the things we also do is manage the key dependencies across the teams. Because a lot of times, you can't execute on one task until you've got something from another team that's completed. So our project plans are a little more intricate in that they're managing those key dependencies across teams. We're always trying to manage that risk as well, because risk is such a huge issue, particularly in the private equity space, I would say, just because of their size and stoutness. And we're trying to make sure that we get all those risks identified and mitigated as quickly as possible so that we can effectively execute. We also work with leaders on decisions. If they need help with decision making, we have some different tools that we use to help drive that business case, if you will, so that you can get those business decisions made quickly. Always in an effort to provide that unmatched client experience, which is what we as Forvis Mazars always does. So, anything to add there, Walter?
Glad you mentioned risks. We're going to talk about risks in a little bit for sure, but that let's have a plan, let's have a strategy, let's know why you did what you did, and now let's build processes and systems around it is a great way to start. And looking forward to showing some of that.
Very cool. So just to dive a little deeper, I won't go into all of this, but this is just kind of gives you an idea of how we go about our project approach. And a lot of this, we're not just handling acquisitions. We also handle, when you get into carve-outs, for example, it's not just acquiring assets or an entire business. It's acquiring some assets or a carve-out of a particular business and managing that transition services agreement. If you're not familiar with transition services agreements, it's really around that buyer gaining services from the seller until such time they can stand up their own capability within their business to manage things like payroll or like benefits or even financial reporting for that matter. So a lot of times we need to rely on that seller to handle those services and using their systems until we can stand up those systems internally ourselves. We do try to get an aggressive 90-day execution plan to get this thing off the ground and capture as much value as we can. And then we utilize accelerators and tools to expedite that and manage the cadence along the way with all the functional areas. On the finance and accounting transformation side, I mentioned this before, but we do provide capabilities in the way of resources, both in the way of CFO and controller support if the organization that's being acquired, or maybe it's not even an acquisition. Maybe it's just, hey, I just need some leadership capability in my finance space to set up a robust financial capability so that I can manage the growth that I'm anticipating. So a lot of times that's something that we'll provide. We also help clients, work on monthly close. If you are doing an acquisition, sometimes those monthly closes are different times of the year or different times of the month. And how do you amalgamate and align that? So we work with companies to manage that as well. Improving the transaction cycle and accounting processes, handling all of the cash to accrual accounting, really managing that 100-day plan, as we mentioned. But as I said early on, is one of the first things we try to do is really manage that business strategy. What is the goal of the business and what are the objectives of the business so that we can truly align the project plan and the execution to build towards getting that value created and realized. So this is the strategies is such a big piece. And then financial reporting analysis. This is really kind of the bread and butter and table stakes for all businesses that have got a finance team. You got to be able to do the financial reporting and analysis. You've got to have the capability to manage that process, that forecasting, analysis, budgeting, and so forth, and be able to work with the board on that.
Reading slides is boring, but I hope folks are taking some of the words here to heart, because these are the reasons we do what we do. Every single week, I'm getting tasks from clients about these things. There are tasks for us to help our clients complete inside of a NetSuite system, but to have your resources around to help us, structure these and manage that project is huge. So we're going to be showing some of these things later on, but this is sort of this looks a lot like my calendar for the week, Darren.
For sure. So I won't go into a lot of detail here, but this is kind of the approach that our finance and accounting transformation team goes through, kind of assess and align, design, implement, automate, and transition support. So they go through these phases, if you will, to really get that financial function in order so that they can support growth across potentially multiple portfolio companies and multiple businesses. The other leg of the stool is that ERP implementation optimization. All you can call it modernization. A lot of times we get into that as well. And the systems, again, are really the enabling aspect of any work that we do. We really want to understand, what are the people aspects, what are the process aspects that have to occur to support our customers. And really then we build and design and select systems to really support that people and process arena. We don't want the system to drive the business. We want the system to enable the business. And it looks like we're at our next polling question.
I think this one can just be cleared by answering the question, so we are allowed to move on to case studies. It's storytelling time.
Yeah. So we have done, these are all kind of sound bites, if you will, or bullet bites of the types of work that we've done in all of these functional spaces. So finance and accounting operations, NetSuite ERP, M&A integration, supply chain, et cetera. These are just some examples, but one that I'll highlight today is really around, it is a NetSuite example where we were working with a company that was trying to get a handle on their inventory. And they actually felt like they had some issues going on with losing and leakage of inventory. And so we put a process in place, implemented the inventory module of NetSuite, and actually found that, yes, indeed, they did have some embezzlement going on the inventory front. And I'm sure some folks probably end up losing their career over that. But these are the types of things that you need in a business to really tighten it up and button it up so that you can manage that and not have that type of leakage. I'm actually working with a client right now that has had some challenges as well in the business, and they're trying to button up through process because a lot of the times the processes aren't tightened up to where they need to check in and check out equipment, and they really need to have a lot of information about and pictures of that equipment before it goes off the yard, for example. So they know what condition that equipment is in before they just didn't have that capability. So now we're trying to get that in place to where they can see what it looks like when it goes out and what it looks like when it comes back, and be able to manage that inventory, make sure all the equipment is coming back. So those are a couple examples in this off this page.
Inventory and fraud, we were talking before we went live about maybe a future webinar topic over fraud and the cost of free systems or cheaper systems, and how they can sometimes foster exactly what you said, either inaccurate inventory numbers for one, or loss and leakage, which is something we unfortunately see with a lot of smaller system conversions. There's just not enough controls there to see what's going on with inventory.
Absolutely. This next example is around a medical device manufacturing deal that I worked on. And this was actually very large PE-owned company, and they bought another PE-owned firm. Both were in the outsourced medical device manufacturing business, and they actually went public shortly after this acquisition ended up being public. But a lot of what this really entailed was they had never done any acquisition before. And these were two very large businesses. I would say probably in the neighborhood of 10, 20,000 employees by the time it was consolidated. And this was one of those deals that you had a lot of functional teams. You had a lot of, I'll say, value drivers that we had to really hone in on by organization, really understand how each work stream was going to contribute to that value. We stood up an integration management office. We had regular cadence meetings with all of the functional teams to ensure we were making progress on those plans. And we actually, in a lot of cases, even provided functional work stream coaching because they had no experience in doing acquisitions. So really managing and helping those coaches along so that they could, if they did another deal, they would be certainly prepared to do that. And then really worked on integration planning, and then also followed on with the execution piece of that, which did include process, people, and technology. But one of the results in that particular one is, hey, they actually increased their stock price in 2 years by 40% after they went public. So it was a huge, huge win. And this is the kind of value that we can add to a company.
It's system-wise, we see a ton of medical device firms in the NetSuite space because of the lot tracking and serial number features that allow us to track a serial number from purchase to through the manufacturing process out to a customer, out to a shipment. That's a very popular industry for us. So we see a lot of med device as well.
This was an actual pool equipment manufacturer, and I don't think I worked on this particular project, but I know exactly, I understand based upon the solution that they did, what kind of the work that they did. One of the things that we did in this particular example was we actually built an acquisition playbook because they anticipated doing more acquisitions beyond this one. This, I think, was one of their first acquisitions. I think they had one prior to this that didn't go so well. And they actually were wanting to build some capability within the organization to be able to repeat how these things got done without necessarily needing us to come back and help them do that. But so we helped them build a playbook with all of the steps and all of the accelerator tools and things that they could use to manage that integration. This was a carve out, as I recall, and so the transition services agreement did come into play here, and to manage that, we stood up the acquisition management office and really led a lot of the back office systems or back office functions rather to manage through bringing these two companies together. But this was a pretty nice project and probably one of the smoothest run acquisitions by the company to date at the time, because it was only the second or third one. So really valuable for them, and we had some lead behinds that allowed them to be able to take that learning and apply it to the next one.
With this one, I wasn't going to talk about pool equipment and pool designers, because we've got some clients in that space as well, and it's an interesting, challenging space with manufacturing and scrap materials and each pool being custom. But you know what? Since you said playbook, I'm just going to park there, because I had a client ask me just last week, and they're iterating to me how they're moving corporate to NetSuite now, but they're looking at acquisitions, and they had this plan about taking those acquisitions from QuickBooks to QuickBooks first before we brought them to NetSuite. And I'm like, oh, hold on, let's think about this. If you're going to do this 6 more times in the next couple of years, we can help you put a playbook together. So I think I'm going to have those guys talk to you about how to put that strategy together.
Bring them on. We're ready.
All right. All right, and with this one, we talked earlier about it, and I know that software subscriptions in particular are a huge space for the NetSuite platform, and we see a lot of cybersecurity firms that have subscriptions, but any software company really that has the need for a sold contract that feeds into a subscription. Perhaps that subscription has a term associated with it. Maybe there's some uplift in terms of the pricing chart on that over the years, and there could be add-ons or takeaways or variances to the term, and that gets to be very complicated accounting very quickly. And with revenue recognition and ASC 606 compliance, dealing with this in a spreadsheet or dealing with this in some non-financial system is just out of the question. It gets off the rails too quickly, and NetSuite's really got a best of breed footprint here with regards to subscription management and the accounting around subscription management. And I'm not exactly sure what percentage of the NetSuite portfolio is software and subscription companies, but a very, very large footprint.
This was another one with regards to a transportation business, and they were buying a totally different business. It was complementary, and the firm that they bought was really a database business and really trying to manage, loads of trucks and so forth, and how much insurance they needed and things like that. But one of the things that I found interesting with this particular program was, we get into a lot of activity around helping those companies be able to take the learnings that they get from these projects so that they can kind of take it on going forward. If they need ongoing support, we're certainly happy to help them, but we want to give them some capacity and capability to really manage through these types of opportunities, and really standing up that integration management office, really working with individuals that are maybe new to the company or new to the acquisition world, and helping them get out amalgamated to that type of role, because you truly are working across the entire business. And it's a great role to learn the business. And so we've often helped IMO leaders manage these types of programs, and it may be their very first one. Going back to the playbook example, a lot of times when you build a playbook, I remember one company we built a playbook for, they didn't want anybody touching that deal until they'd gotten trained on that playbook. And that was really a testament of the importance of the terminology and the the process and the methodology that one needed to use to make these things successful. So a lot of these operational and project management, program management across functions is the type of work that our group is really stout at, and proud to be a part of that.
You know, and I'm going to highlight something unexpected. We didn't talk about this, but as this slide came up, I saw it a different way. Transportation company acquires software database firm. And that is something I talk about a lot that's unique to NetSuite's capabilities, because there's plenty of systems out there that can do multi-company. There's a few that can do multi-country. There's plenty of best of breed this or that. But if you're looking to acquire companies and you're not exactly sure what the next company looks like, it might look radically different than your last one and different from what you expect. NetSuite's ability to absorb businesses across all of these industries and many more, I think, is its unique feature, a killer feature, potentially. You know, it's one thing to be able to manage just the books for 10, 15, 20 portfolio companies. But if you were to acquire a software company, do you have subscription software to be able to handle that accounting? If you pick up a manufacturing firm, do you have work orders, WIP, and routing to be able to handle that manufacture? And not every publisher out there has a software solution that is that flexible. So I'm just going to end with the word flexibility there. Flexibility is a feature of NetSuite that doesn't get talked about a lot for PE groups.
Yep, for sure.
All right, that's our next polling question, and I believe it will disappear if you are actually paying attention.
Yes. Quick housekeeping note, too. For those interested, the PDF with these case studies is available to download. So it's in that additional resources box here on the platform.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Sarah. There's some wordiness on there, but those words were pretty good. So if folks can download those, I think that's a great resource for them to maybe see the kinds of things we offer and maybe see themselves in those slides. All right, with that, we want to talk a little more specifically about NetSuite and try to get you some exposure to that software tool as much as possible. In previous demos or demonstrations, we've talked about how NetSuite brings a lot of the modules that deal with the operational departments we've talked about today into one system, whether it's sales or HR or payroll or cash management. Inventory is a huge one. Manufacturing we've talked about today. All of these things are in the suite. It is a comprehensive suite of products that really is delivered as one system, and that's very unique in the marketplace to not have to tack on third parties or extra modules or perform integrations with outside systems. NetSuite truly is an all-in-one system that does a good, flexible job at all the things listed here. Not to get too far into any of these today, because I want to make sure we have a little bit of time left for demo, but here's some extra detail with regards to some of those features. Obviously, cloud-based, software as a service, cloud delivered, so that you're getting out of the IT business and you're focusing on your processes and your tools more deeply than IT. Automation and other management tools that are custom to you. Security and compliance is huge. We can't really caution enough against the cost of having a system that is incapable of segregation of duties or incapable of an audit trail. And perhaps maybe even a system that has audit trail capabilities but isn't turned on by default. I find that interesting. NetSuite's audit trail capabilities are actually on all the time, and you can't turn them off. And I feel like that's a much better security feature than just having the feature. So I won't read this slide, but you see some very relevant features there as it relates to the things that we've talked about today. More about the fit between the NetSuite application and the private equity or venture capital market. NetSuite has some history. So not the new kid on the block anymore since 1998, in fact. So it's been around for a long time. Again, the technology and subscription space is huge, but because so much of that is private equity and venture capital based, there's many thousands of PEVC portfolio companies that are running NetSuite. And those customers make up, or tech companies make up 2/3 of that portfolio. The reason why there's so much intersectionality between NetSuite and the private equity community are those benefits to the right, things that we've talked about today. The ability to acquire easily, the ability to exit easily, reduce risks, expansion and scalability, tools that enable efficiencies, faster close and audit prep, standard processes for investors. So we've talked about a lot of that today. Let's move into showing some of that and get a demo up for you. So with that, I will share a screen and we'll spend a few minutes with the application. So this is the NetSuite dashboard, the NetSuite interface. And in other webinars and in future webinars, we'll go deeper into the product, but there's a couple of things we can see here very quickly, and I'll highlight them. Our subsidiary navigator over here on the right side shows the current portfolio tree that this organization is managing. We've got a parent company and a couple of different United States-based subsidiaries. Only 2 or 3 portfolio companies here, so not a huge family tree. But one of the real advantages of the NetSuite system is that once you license a country, you can have unlimited subsidiaries at no cost. That is unique. Many other publishers are charging per subsidiary, and that sort of makes you think about things as you are in acquisition mode. With NetSuite, once you're licensed on the platform, you can have as many subsidiaries in those licensed countries as you want. You just have to ask for them. So that's fantastic. Once those portfolio companies are within the tree, are within the singular system, then we can start to leverage the power of that system. And on this screen, you'll see so many ways that you can manage your business. It's not just reminders and tasks and calendars, but financial metrics, KPIs, deeper financial data, custom financial data, various ways to display that data. And maybe the relevant point here is all of this data is built into the system. This is not an external reporting tool. It's not a third-party tool. The number one reason folks are converting into more advanced middle market systems is for reporting, better reporting, easier reporting, faster, deeper reporting. And NetSuite brings all of this out of the box, whether it's cash flow or an EBITDA calculation or a visual of cash flow or KPIs that are set across each organization. You get to decide what those metrics look like. So let's see how some of this fans out in terms of the portfolio tree. If I were to go look at an income statement, our first click on that is going to bring up sort of a generic altogether parent or consolidated income statement. That was a pretty simple click, but for some organizations, that's sort of magical in and of itself. To not have to glue multiple companies together in Excel and to have a consolidated income statement is out of the box here. If we need to drill down to one subsidiary or the other, we can do that down here with a filter. So we can look at company 1 very easily. We can look at company 2 very easily. And then we can begin to slice and dice this further and say, are we going to look at the entire organization as a whole? Or are we going to look at each department inside of the organization? Looks like sub 2 doesn't have a lot of department structure. Let's go back and look at sub 1, which is our main operating company. So sub 2 was, probably a small organization, maybe a real estate organization or a holding company. But it looks like all my activity here is in company 1. I've got engineering as a department, marketing, products, professional services. So again, speaking to flexibility, NetSuite supports work orders and raw goods and field services and CRM, as we've talked about earlier. So if you acquire a business in any one of these spaces, you're sort of safe knowing that NetSuite has a feature set to support that. So, this level of reporting is built in. Obviously, everything is a quick export. My little green Excel button down here, Excel is still our friend. And we're always able to get data out to Excel very easily. All right, so back to our dashboard quickly. If we've got any metrics or KPIs set up down here, let's just do a quick drill down. We've got some sales figures, but you know what? Actually, more importantly than that, Darren, you were talking about risk and inventory a few minutes ago. Let's take a peek at that. So if I were to click on a balance sheet, maybe the number 2 reason, we talked about reporting being the number 1 reason a second ago, but number 2 might be inventory. And to know that my inventory is actually tying to my balance sheet in a meaningful way is a pretty basic thing for Darren and I, but a pretty complicated thing for a lot of our clients. It's something they're looking for. So let's say that I'm looking to get a deeper dive on inventory here. I'm going to filter down. I'm going to filter down to sub 1, and I'm going to bring up some additional features. I'm also going to filter down to location 1 and do a refresh on that. And I'm going to take a peek at my inventory in stock number. It looks like 988,000 is my number there. That's great. I'm going to drill down on it now. And when I do that, I'm going to see, again, sort of in financial reporting mode, I'm going to see the detail for that GL account behind those transactions. I see my ins and my outs. I've got receipts in, I've got fulfillments or shipments out, and all of these culminate to a bottom line. I'm actually going to filter this back down to October. So we're just seeing 1 month. And it looks like, again, there's my total. So 988,000, which is fantastic. Just to sort of prove this out, I'm going to get out of the financial reporting engine. I'm going to go to reports, and let's get this a little smaller. I'm going to go to reports, look at inventory, and now look at inventory valuation. And if I take a minute to filter that report to company number 1 and to location number 1 and refresh it, there we go. I'm going to get that same figure, 988,000. And now, instead of showing an ins and outs cumulative balance like on a balance sheet, I'm actually seeing the fact that these are my part numbers, that these are my inventory asset values, and it's literally quantity times value equals total. And just the simple thing of having my inventory be accurate and tying out to my balance sheet in a live system that reports very quickly and performs well is a feature that, of course, a lot of clients are looking for regardless of what industry that they're in. But while we've still got a few minutes left, let's take maybe a peek at the risk side of it. Let's see, I'll switch from a controller role over to an administrator role. The system is obviously role-based, so folks can do what they're allowed to do, and we can have that segregation of duties. But as administrator, I'll see some different features. I'll see a system notes audit log. I'll see a login trail audit log. I'll see who's coming in and out of the system. I'll see what they're doing, and I'll see that in detail so that I'll always know who is doing what to each one of my transactions. And also quickly, as it relates to inventory, workflow is a tremendous feature where we're allowed to create rules inside the system. And those rules allow us to mirror our technology setup with our operational setup that Darren might be helping you with. So if we're looking to implement three-way match, for example, and obviously NetSuite supports purchase orders, the receipt of those purchase orders, and then the conversion of those purchase orders to vendor bills, we might want a workflow system that looks something like this. And these are rules that can either come standard from a NetSuite module or bundle or be customized for each individual business. But we've got some steps here, and they're rules in the system, but we build them visually. We're not writing code, but we're going to validate that bill. We're then going to go look at the item or the product itself and look at the tolerances for things like quantity or dollar amount. So we'll put the workflow through those rules and those tolerances, and then we'll place the purchase order in a pending state or an approved state or a rejected state, depending on the values of those quantities or those dollars. Each one of those states along the way has values that we get to adjust ourselves as NetSuite users so that we've got a system that's very unique to the needs of the business. So, very quickly, I think this shows how the ability to configure NetSuite for the business is a little different than other systems that tend to make the business bend to the features of the software. I don't really consider NetSuite to be a system full of features as much as I consider the system to be a platform where the clients build features themselves based off of the needs of their business. All right, so I know we're coming up on time, so wanted to catch those couple of bullet points before we got out. With 5 or 6 minutes to go, could be a good time to open it up to any questions or topics for future discussion.
Absolutely. So thank you for taking us through that demo, Walter. Thank you, Darren and Walter. You guys both provided some great value add insights and strategies. So while the floor is open up for questions, we are going to go into our final polling question, and that is, would you like to connect with us? So, we talked a lot about unlocking value for portfolio companies today and the firms that are seeking to acquire them. So if you have questions, regardless if they are NetSuite related, technology related, process related, private equity services related, please let us know if you would like some follow-up.
I do see one question there that just popped in about school districts, and do we see school districts using NetSuite? The answer is yes, and one of the features that we see really in play there is a hierarchy of, I won't say customers, but the ability to structure entities inside of NetSuite. So NetSuite obviously supports financial transactions, but financial transactions are always tied to an entity or a company or a location. And through parent-child relationships, it's very easy to structure what is typically a very complex org chart where you've got a school system, school districts, district offices, and then individual campuses that feed up into that model. And then that whole entity model can sort of help also structure the finances. They typically go together. So we've seen both vocational schools and state universities under NetSuite, as well as school systems because of the ability to do that.
Excellent.
I see several questions coming
technical, in. Yeah. Yep. So we can always follow up with those via email.
And we will. So if everybody could sort of scramble to get some questions in, our commitment would be to make sure that we address those questions after the fact. So we'll shoot you an email with some specific answers to those questions, or maybe we can talk to you about them. But I see things about treasury enhancement and banking integration, I would say, has come a very long way in the last 5 or 10 years, but the ability to connect directly to your banking institutions, really regardless of the institution. Some banks have dedicated plugins to NetSuite, but many other banks are just able to connect through standard technologies, and almost any bank is able to connect through a particular file format that's a little more manual, but we can automate some of those things. But that really helps sort of the grunt work out of treasury management go away if we're connecting to the bank, and then you're in a position to be able to look at income and check runs and balance all that together. Because it's in one system, you're able to get that reporting that you're looking for. And let's see, with a few more minutes left, let's see if we can pick out another one.
The one is a little more demo related, so we may have to follow up. And then a few more others. Very technical
I
questions.
love a good demo.
We're happy, but we have like 1 minute left.
Future webinars will be more demo heavy for sure. We love a good demo. Hey, price comparisons. I'll just address that real quickly. How does NetSuite compare in price? It does compare in price to other competitive systems. You'll see common systems from Sage or Microsoft that play in the same space as NetSuite. NetSuite's a very broad application. We didn't say it specifically today, but you can actually grow a NetSuite instance from 1 or 2 users all the way up to 100, 1,000, or 2,000 users without ever having to re-platform. Of course, the system costs more as you make that journey from mom and pop to enterprise per se. But you never have to re-platform. You never have to move from, say, a small business system to an enterprise system. And other publishers don't let you do that. You're going to have to change software. So the pricing can grow with you is maybe the quick answer to that. But there's very competitive pricing for small organizations, and then also very competitive pricing for mid-market and enterprise organizations as it relates to the competition. We'll be glad to talk more about that in the future.
All right. And with that, we are at the top of the hour. So thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you so much. Never enough time, but join us in the future and we'll go into more depth on some of these topics. Thank you. Thank you, Darren, as well.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Walter.